Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's session. And I would like to welcome for this India Cloud Security Summit 2021 and our session Secure Infrastructure with Microsoft Defender for Identity. Myself, Sebastain Gomes, and I'm a cloud solution architect based in Melbourne, Australia. And I'm very glad to join along with Hasnain to take you all guys a detailed walkthrough for the how to secure infrastructure with Microsoft Defender for Identity. So today's agenda, we will look overview the current cybersecurity realities. What is cybercrime and how it is damaging the organizations globally, and what is it impact in the economy of the global economy, and what are the consequences with the cybercrime in today's global market. And followed by, we will see the anatomy of an attack, which is also called as cyber chain kill process. It is basically the complete stages of an attacker from the time he intrudes into the environment until the time he caused the damage and leave the organization with the intention of coming into the environment. So that's when we will understand how it is happening and what are the consequences. Then it will make more sense to pitch into Microsoft Defender for Identity to understand how Microsoft Defender for Identity will help us to protect in those phases, and what are the use cases, how it is going to help us, and how it will protect the infrastructure from those attackers. And also we will see the architecture of Microsoft Defender for Identity, and followed by a detailed steps or detailed functionalities of the Defender, how it works in our organization when we configure. So after our presentation slides, we do have a technical demonstration in the lab. And please stay tuned and you can enjoy the complete lab setup and how the use cases are going to be created. And it basically, you will get a fair bit of understanding that how Microsoft Defender will help to identify those suspicious behaviors in the lab. Okay, and in the be more than happy to take any question and answers in the Q&A session if there are any questions. I think I'll request everyone to please go on mute. Uh, thank you. So moving on to cybersecurity realities, it is very important to understand what are the current realities, because if we have to understand, modern attacks have evolved from a kind of a what you call smash and grab methods to goal of maintaining a persistent and long presence in the environment. Earlier, what used to happen, any attacker, if he used to enter into the organization using any kind of methodologies to attack, he used to come with the intention of causing some damage or stealing some information and then leave the organization. But now the attackers are smart and more intelligent, because they stay in the environment and they do all the damage and cause whatever is required, and but still they don't want to leave the organization. They want to still stay with their presence in the environment without getting detected. That is what is very concerning and very scary actually. Just for an example, imagine if a stranger breaks into our home and stays with us in our home without our knowledge for more than 3 months. Isn't that scary? Definitely it is. So this is what is happening in today's cybersecurity realities, that when an attacker attacking any environment, their presence is in the environment for more than 99 days without getting detected. But with Microsoft Defender, it helps us to detect and find those suspicious activities. And out of all these attacks, more than 81% of the attacks are because of the stolen credentials or weak passwords. So these are the two important factors. If organizations are very stringent and very protective about the credentials and passwords, then 81% of the attacks are anyways taken care. So which is very good. And what are the implications with respect to cost? How it is impacting the global economy with respect to the cost? How it is damaging? Yes, as we have seen, as of 2020, there was a potential cost of 500 billion dollars for the cybercrime in the global economy. And in fact, 500 billion is nothing. It is very least when we compare against 10.5 trillion dollars, which is expected to be by end of 2025. Isn't that a big number? Yes, definitely. And how can we identify that how much that will cost on an average to each company? Yes, definitely. We can't guess that, right? Because there are a lot of elements associated to that. Because it's not only the damage or not only the data breach, but on top of the disruption to the business processes. And as a security professional, it is very difficult to assess the value of intangibles, such as could be a reputational damage, and there could be a cost of rebuilding the compromised systems. And also, there would be a huge amount of cost might be invested to investigate what went wrong for this particular data breach. This itself comes to a big cost for any organization. Apart from that, and there could be some compliance policies, and the companies might end up paying to the compliance regulatory bodies to their respective countries in the regions as if they breach any compliance regulatory policies. And also, if any organizations are managing third party, managing their customers data. For example, if an organization is a trusted vendor for a company ABC, and if that vendor is responsible for all management of the data infrastructure and everything for another company, and if any data is lost, then the vendor will be liable to pay a huge or hefty fine to its customer for doing that for that particular data breach. So all these kind of impact is definitely associated with these cyber crimes. And in the recent past, we have seen a lot of a spike in the identity threat. And it has been noticed that 1.4 million more identity theft than last year. So it is a huge concerning thing which we all need to understand. To secure our infrastructure is very important. So let us look at the anatomy of an attack. What happens when an attacker tries to intrude into the company? What are those phases? These are the different phases that attacker passes through, from the external recon to the internal recon, and then he does a lot of lateral movement within the environment, and then he tries to reach to the privileged accounts like domain administrators to get the domain dominance, and then behave as a domain owner and do all the necessary damage, whatever he has come with an intention of. So definitely with these kind of external reconnaissance phase, attackers actually before planning an attack, they don't actually randomly attack organizations. Instead, we can feel that intelligent attackers spend a lot of amount of time in researching the targets. For example, if we want to, if anybody, for example, a robber, if they want to rob a house, they just don't step into that house to break in. So before that, they will visit that place multiple times, and they do a lot of research of the location of the main entrance and all those sorts, whatever calculations or the plannings needs to be done, that will be done from quite long time. And similarly, in that fashion, here an attacker spends significant amount of time researching the target, and an attacker will use this reconnaissance phase to determine whether the target is worth attacking. If after attacking, if they don't get anything, then it's an absolute waste of time. So their objective for an attack and the characteristics of the target organizations are very important. That's when they put in a lot of amount of time to do a detailed analysis and research. So during this reconnaissance phase, attackers examine external services like web applications of the company and their service providing to their customers, or what kind of websites, as well as email and their domains, to determine the characteristics of their services in detail. So just for an example, an organization hosts its email infrastructure in Office 365 or not. So those kind of analysis they will be doing. Or it is using an on-premises solution, what kind of email solution. So these answers to their questions will determine the attacker strategy. So this will help them to plan in a more efficient manner to get into that attacking mode. So now once the attacker plans, then confirms that worth of attacking, then they select the required necessary tools which will facilitate them to exploit the organization for the companies, whichever they attack. And these tools will be deployed and allow the attacker to gain a strong foothold in the victim's PC. And all this is happening uh, just by sending phishing emails to the end users. And during the analysis or during the research, the attacker also identifies what kind of users they need to target. And by sending those phishing emails, and if users click on any URLs or opens the attachment in the phishing from the phishing emails, that's it. They get their purpose fulfilled. And after that, attackers have compromised non-privileged account, and they get access to the internal lateral for doing any kind of internal recon. So from external recon, they compromise the unprivileged user account, and now they have started the internal recon. So within the internal recon, now they will try to understand what kind of machines are there in the environment, what are the groups, and during the lateral movement, the attacker begins to compromise other systems on the network. And increasing the number of compromised systems, this attackers slowly moves now from the non-privileged access to the other privileged access like domain administrators. They, as I said, the tools which they finalized will be installed on the victim's PC first, and from there they do a lot of coding, they run a lot of codes remotely and do all kind of these activities internally to succeed in the lateral movement and to reach another privileged account. And in doing this, eventually, they all capture the credentials of the members of the domain administrators, and then they will leverage that domain admin credentials to logging into the domain controllers. And definitely once they reach to the domain controllers, they can create new domain admin credentials for themselves. And then they behave as if they are the domain owners. So these are all is the process of the anatomy of an attack. And we will see how Microsoft Defender for Identity will help in each and every phase, to see how it is protecting and how it is generating alerts to see the environments protecting with the Microsoft Defender for Identity. So now to see what is Microsoft Defender for Identity, it is very important to understand that what kind of services we get and how it is helping us to protect. So Microsoft Defender for Identity is nothing, but it is just a rebranding of Microsoft Advanced Threat Protection. I hope everyone are aware of it. So it is a new name from Microsoft Advanced Threat Protection to Microsoft Defender for Identity. As we all know that it's a cloud-based security solution which leverages on-premises Active Directory signals to identify what kind, and also to identify or detect or investigate advanced threats or compromised identities or malicious actions which has been happened within the organization. And also it not only does that, but it continuously monitor the users and entity behaviors so that it can understand the user behavior using a lot of machine learning and analytic artificial intelligence will be happening in the background. So it is a very good tool to actually identify the user behavior, and based on that it can also identify what kind of user is logging in, what kind of working hours. If anything happening in a different time zone or different non-business hours, then probably definitely it will identify that is as a suspicious behavior. And since a lot of machine learning is happening in the background, it uses or it helps in orchestrating and techniques like user and entity behavioral analysis. So there is very less for making mistakes, and very less the false positive can be generated by Microsoft Defender. That is what is expected from this out of to help the customers. And since it is working behind the scene at the Microsoft Azure, which is on a large scale, that's when it protects the gets the actual power of the cloud. And we also get best in class security, the last one, because intelligent security graph from Microsoft is in the background. It is a place where thousands of customers, alerts, and these things are coming into one single point, and it will be continuously monitoring and continuously trying to figure out what is suspicious and what could be the most threat for the companies or the customers. For example, if one customer from the one customer environment, if any threat is being suspiciously identified and Microsoft identifies that as a serious threat and it could be affected to other customers, then Microsoft rectifies it and update in the Microsoft Defender so that it can help all the customers globally. That is the power that we get in the best in class security. And how Microsoft Defender helps to identify in each and every phase, that is one of the important thing we need to understand, because Microsoft Defender for Identity leverages machine learning and behavioral algorithms in the background, and it helps to learn about the organization's network, uh, enables the detection of the different types of anomalies, and also it warns the customers about the suspicious activities. So that is what is exactly is happening in each and every phase. So we have seen reconnaissance phase, compromised credential, lateral movement, privilege escalation, and till the end, it is getting as a domain dominance. So all these while there are certain examples, what is there in the boxes. Under the reconnaissance phase, it identifies and alerts the security admin about the abnormal resource access, or if any account enumeration is happening, or any session is getting generated unexpectedly or abnormally, what kind of DNS enumeration is happening under that reconnaissance phase. So all these phase in this phase, all these kind of examples, Microsoft Defender will generate an alert and shares the details as a suspicious behavior. And similarly, in the compromised credentials, we can see abnormal working hours, which I have already given you an example. For example, if I am a user in one organization and my working hours is normal 9 to 5 in the morning, and Microsoft Defender, that machine learning identifies that Sebastain Gomes is so-and-so user, and his usual behavior of logging into the network is from morning 9 to 5 p.m. Australian time. But if anything happens in the weekend, for example, of unexpected request is going for the domain credentials or the other servers or any application servers internally, then definitely this Microsoft Defender will highlight a red flag to the security admin in the portal with the alert. So same thing happens under lateral movement, and in the lateral movement, it uses the technologies of process like a pass the ticket, pass the hash, overpass the hash. With all these processes, that a lot of commands being executed remotely by the attacker on the victim's PC. So during that lateral movement, all these kind of processes, all these kind of ticket examples, this defender tried to capture as an suspicious behavior. And privilege escalation, it's a Microsoft where it identifies any exploit and then it fixes so that the other customers will also get benefit out of it. And one of the recent examples, if I have to name, I hope you might have heard of print nightmare exploit recently, which is used in the past. Recently, it was viral, and a lot of attackers were exploiting using print spooler services and trying to exploit those services. So if Microsoft updates or fixes that exploit, then this Microsoft Defender is updated now with that. So these are the benefits of Microsoft Defender. And the architecture looks like this. It has a portal, and it comes with a sensor and a cloud service, which is a Microsoft Cloud App Security. And it also has a domain controller, ADFS, in case if you want to install that sensor on domain controller or ADFS, then with that sensor, all the logs or alerts will be captured and sent to the Microsoft Defender. And from there, it all analysis and learning, observation, everything happens. So the portal is a place where you can generate or create an instance, and you can have all the available information, which is in the kind of a dashboard where you can see alerts and the necessary action or mitigation or remediation place it can be done. So it allows you to create your Microsoft Defender instance and displays the data received from Microsoft Defender. And accordingly, admins can take necessary actions. And the sensor, what I'm talking about, it is we need to install that sensor either in a domain controller or a ADFS server or on any standalone server, so that it can capture all the signal, all the necessary logs or things which is required to be sent to cloud and the Microsoft Defender for identity. Then the sensor will come into picture. Because with that sensor being installed in that particular server, it continuously monitors the domain controller's traffic, which is coming from the Active Directory, and it has a configuration port mirroring if it is not installed on domain controllers. So all those sort will definitely help to get all the information from the network for the further analysis. And also Cloud App Security can be integrated with other applications like SIEM integration or a mail notification or Azure Sentinel and other whatever Microsoft applications it can be integrated. So this is the overall architecture, how it looks. And moving on to how it works is most important. So once we have all the prerequisites, once we have the Microsoft Defender for Service configured and the sensor being installed, so now the sensor is installed, so it starts collecting the data. So once the data started to flow in from the Active Directory network traffic, all the data is collected from the integration services like SIEM and other places to get the information of titles, group memberships of the Active Directory and other permissions and all those sort and many more. So all those information will be collected. So what it does, once the collection is done, then it will start analyzing the patterns. And once it starts analyzing the patterns, that's when it becomes more efficient, more capable in learning the behavior of the user or the device or the any resource. So that's when it automatically starts learning and it understands the network, it understands the users, devices, and other resources. And also it understands the actually the IP naming resolution patterns and what kind of services and how it is being worked upon. Once it understands and learns about the behaviors, then it is in a very good position to detect. What it detects? The unusual behaviors, the abnormal behaviors, suspicious behaviors. And after identifying the behaviors, it raises a red flag. That is when we get a very good information in a detailed manner from the Microsoft Defender, so that the security administrators have adequate amount of information to deal with those things. So once it detects, and there are a lot of things happens in the background, because identity defender for identity provides invaluable insights not only about identity configuration but also about the best practices, and through reports and user profile analytics. And since it is Azure ATP service, it helps in reducing the organizational attack surface. So a lot of things are associated with that. Once it detects, then it alerts to investigate. And it also investigate from by itself to deliver the complete report on the suspicious activity in a simple, functional, and actionable attack timeline. So it identifies who has done it, what it has been done, when it has been done, and how it has been done. And also you can see the snapshot on the middle. You can see suspected golden ticket usage and remote code execution attempt, suspected identity theft with the help of pass the ticket. So these are the alerts it has been captured on a timely basis on the date for against which PC. You can see on the left hand side the PC name and all the details. So with this, the security admins would be in a very, very good position to understand and analyze and act accordingly and remediate these risks. This is how the Microsoft security for Defender will come into picture to help and protect the infrastructure. So now we will see all these use cases in the demonstration in the lab, how Microsoft will try to identify the suspicious behavior and how it alerts. And probably those use cases, my colleague Hasnain Shaikh will walk you through by sharing his screen. Hasnain, over to you.
Hey, thank you so much, Sebastain, for this wonderful session. Let me go ahead and share my desk here.
Okay.
All right. So in this technical demo, what we are going to do, I have created a small lab. I'll show how we will perform some of the suspicious activities and how Microsoft Defender for Identity will help you to detect those. OK, so we have just one domain controller. On the domain controller, I have also installed the ATP sensor, which is connected to my Microsoft Defender portal. And then we have a victim PC where John is a normal user. He doesn't have any admin privileges. He is logged in here. And then we have a Ron, who is a help desk guy. OK, Ron has access, since he's a part of help desk. It is expected that he would have to he will have access to all the workstations. Right. So he also has access to admin PC where Samira is logged in and she is a domain admin. So using Ron's credential, how the attacker will grab the ticket, the Kerberos ticket, and then load it on the victim PC and use it against the domain controller. OK, and we'll see how it will detect in the Microsoft Defender. OK, so like my colleague mentioned, right, in the cyber kill chain process, there are different stages. What we will see is some of these stages in our lab. OK, starting with the reconnaissance phase, where once the attacker gets into your environment, right, the first thing he wants to start to looking at which users are what, right? The privileges users, as well as the who is the executive users. OK, looking at like who is the domain administrator. OK, maybe who is the server admin, help desk guys. OK, looking at they also try to look for the DNS reconnaissance, where they try to find out what all different servers you have in the environment, right? Exchange servers, SharePoint servers, what are the different servers that you have in the environment that they can exploit. Okay, look for the user and IP address SMB session where they can find that, okay, these are the machines where definitely the credentials are cached, and they can try to go ahead and grab those. Okay, moving to the lateral movement, we'll see how when there is a honey token account is set up, if an attacker tries to utilize that or you access that, how Microsoft Defender for Identity will help you to detect that. Okay, that to show that, hey, there is something wrong in the environment, right? Somebody tried to access it. And then we'll see how attacker can use the hash, grab it from the memory and load it into the command prompt or on the system, and then connect it to the, or try to move laterally in the environment to connect to the admin PC. Okay, and then we'll see how it will grab the ticket of Samira in the lab and then load it on the victim's PC. And then once it has, since the domain admin ticket, we'll see how it can execute the remote code to create another account on our domain controller. How, since he's a domain admin, he can also perform the replication. We'll see how it will just perform the replication for the master account, which is KRB TGT account, to get the hash. And then once it has that, it can go ahead and generate the n number of tickets, whether the user exists in the environment or whether the user doesn't exist in the environment. It doesn't really matter there, right? So let's get into the lab. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is, like I mentioned, right? What I'm going to do is I'll just try to do the DNS recurrence. Means user is just trying to transfer the zone for the domain, okay, which is definitely expected to fail. Okay, since what Microsoft Defender for Identity does, it monitors the user's behavior, right, and then takes like 30 days to understand what would be the usual behavior of the user and what could be the unusual behavior of the user. Okay, so this might not come up as an error or warning event as of now because it's a lab. But yes, after 30 days, these would be considered as a suspicious activities. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and try to look for the directory enumeration, saying that, hey, what all different users are there in the environment. So I have the Samira is a user, Ron is another user, and there are a few couple of users. Okay, ENT admin is our honey token account. And I'm looking at, hey, what all different groups do I have in the domain? Okay, so helpdesk is one of the group. Okay, so attacker will be mainly interested in these groups like helpdesk, domain administrators, enterprise administrators. Okay, so now let's see who all are domain admins here. So it finds that, hey, there's 2 users as a domain admin. And then it will try to see who all are enterprise admins. Let me see if I can copy the command. Yep, I can. Okay, so there's only 1 user, and then now he's looking at the helpdesk. So Ron is a member of it. So that means if he can get the Ron's credential, he can at least move at the your tier 2, wherein you have your workstations. Okay. Now, what the attacker is going to do is trying to find out, hey, where are these active sessions, the SMB sessions are available, which he can leverage and see, right? So he finds that, hey, there are 2 servers where it is available, right? One is this one, okay, and then this is another server, okay. So let's look at the Microsoft Defender for Identity and see how these would have reported here, okay. Sometimes it might take some time to reflect those old events, but I'll try to see how we can find the previous events. Okay. Okay. So you see here, right? This is the kind of information you will see. Okay. Like I mentioned, as of now, it's not highlighted as a warning. But yes, once it finds that, hey, this is not the usual behavior, right? Why would the user needs to know who are my domain admins, right? So that's how it will reflect here. So you'll see that, OK, from the victim PC, user enumerated all the users that are in the environment and look for all the groups, looking for who are domain admins, enterprise admins, and then who are a part of the helpdesk, right? So and then this is how it will reflect when it looks for the user has tried to look for the SMB session on the domain controllers. OK. And this is how it will show as a warning. And then when you go further, you'll see that, hey, which user has done that, right? So John is a user. He started from the victim PC And then he found that, hey, it was exposed, like these are the two details that he got when he ran the command or tried to run the reconnance for SMB. Okay, if I can find more details. Okay, so this is the command that you see, right? Send AX of our query resolving mscloud.atp.com to this one. This is the one that reflects that user tried to do the DNS zone transfer to his PC. Okay, and like I said, this is not showing as a warning because it has not got the the base, or it has not got the base level data where it can analyze that which would be the usual behavior and which will be the unusual behavior. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab the Ron's credential, okay, get his hash, and then we'll load that in our memory. All right. So I have done this lab earlier. Okay, I'll just type the commands. Okay. So once it run this right and look at the okay. So here you see, right, with this command, I have managed to get the NTLM hash of the user. Now I can use this hash and go and access the admin PC. So for an instance, if I try to, let's say, just browse the admin PC now, right? Let's say, okay. Okay, looks like I do have the, oh, okay. It's like I do have the okay. I really should not have been able to access it. It should error out actually. So let me just. This is the expected message that I should get. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load the. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. I'm going to load the hash of Ron and then use it against the admin PC. And since he has managed to get the the hash value, he can just run this command and find out, hey, what the user is member of. So he knows that, hey, this user is a help desk member, and then he can just utilize that credential to go against the admin PC. So since I have just loaded in the memory, it's not going to reflect that unless I use that hash to authenticate or access any of the resources, right? So I'm going to just, I can access that. Now what I'll do, I'll copy my attacking tools to the admin PC so that I can grab the ticket from there on the victim PC. And how it will reflect you in the error or in the events is something like this. Suspected overpassed the hash attack. So the Ron is a help desk guy, right? On a victim PC, he successfully authenticated against the MS ATPDC, which is my domain controller. So this would showcase here, like from where he got that credential, right? From Ron's machine to the victim PC, and then he went to the authenticate to the MS ATPDC. Okay. So it's recognizing that it's a potential sensitive lateral movement path identified here. Okay, and then because Ron is a part of sensitive user group help desk, it is reflecting here that he's, it's a sensitive lateral movement path. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to first identify that what access does Ron has on that particular machine. Okay. These are some of the commands. I'll just try to run quickly here. So with this, he can find that, hey, Ron was a part of help desk, right? Now Ron is also an admin on the victim on the admin PC. Okay. So what he'll do now, he'll start copying the attacking tools here. OK, so he copy that tool, and then now he is going to export the tickets on that machine from the memory. OK, so he had got all the tickets. Now he's not worried about all the tickets, right? He like these many tickets are there, but he's not worried about all. He's looking just for Samira's because that's the credential which will give the attacker to move further, right, in the environment. OK, so till now is just collecting the data. It's not it has not used that yet. OK, so it will not flag in the identifier in the defender for identity. However, since it is the beginning, right? If you get to hold the attacker at the very beginning, you know that OK, he cannot move further, right? You'll be able to get take preventive actions from there itself if you can detect that. At times, what happens in the organization, people are not able to detect that before the attacker gets through the domain and then take the domain dominance. OK, what I'm doing is I'm going to copy all the tickets which is for Samira, and then now I'll remove the presence from the admin PC. OK, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load this token, OK, into memory here. OK, so all the tickets are loaded, but I haven't used it, right? Since I have not used it, it will not reflect in the defender for identity. OK, so now what I'm going to do is now, since this is as similar as that, I have got the domain admin credential, right? I got the ticket of it. That means I have the access to domain controller as such. OK, there you go. So now I can access the domain controller as such. OK, and how it will reflect in the Microsoft Defender for Identity is something like this. Suspected identity theft. That means an attacker took the ticket, the Kerberos ticket from the admin PC and used it on the victim PC to access different resources. And when you go further in the details, you'll find that what all different resources the user has tried to access it. OK, it will show that, hey, when was the first observed. OK, so you'll get the full list of details and see that where all, that how it managed to get it, from which machine he used it, where he had grabbed that, and then which resources he had access. OK, so you see, right, MSTP, DC, the RPC, ASS. So all the details you will find it here. OK, now with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, as a bad attacker, OK, it will create a admin account on the domain controller. OK, I'm still not logged into a domain controller. I'm still just using the Kerberos ticket which was issued on some other machines. OK, so with this, I'm going to create a account called Kerb admin. OK, and I'll add it to the administrators group on the domain controller. OK, it's like executing the remote command. OK, that will just take a few minutes. While it completes, I'll show you the kind of events you'll be able to see. OK, so you'll see this is the kind of event you'll see in the Defender for Identity, showing that the remote code was executed. OK, from where this user executed from where the victim PC and then against the domain controller. OK, so he ran the psexec command and then added the the user into that group. So if you add that group, right, for instance here, once you add the sensitive groups, right, so anybody gets added there, it will reflect in the Defender for Identity thread. OK, now with that, OK, we have managed to get to the domain controller. We managed to take the credentials of a domain admin. Now what I'm going to do is take the golden ticket, which is for the KRBTGD account. That means I'm going to replicate the hash value of Kerberos account, OK, onto the victim PC, and then I can use it to issue the ticket for any user that I want, right? And that will be valid for as long as my Kerberos KRBTGD account is active, and the ticket is valid for that. OK. All right, so let's see what we have got here. OK, so with that, I have got the hash value of our care BTG account. OK, and now you see when it creates any ticket, right? How many number of days of that ticket is valid when it does create that. OK, so I'm going to, let's say, issue the ticket. OK, and I'm issuing a ticket for a user who even does not exist in my environment. So if I look at the Kerberos ticket, right, I issued the ticket for a user, OK, Gomes. But if you look at in my ADE, right, that user even does not exist. Right, so I go here, try to search for Gomes. I don't find it. OK, that means it has issued the ticket to a user who does not exist, and you see the ticket, it's going to be valid for 2031, like 10 years. So that's why one of the recommendation is that you should reset the password for this account like every 6 months, or at least twice in a year, so that these tickets will be nullified once the password is reset for this account. OK, because it cannot validate that. So let's look at the defender for identity, that how it will reflect that, right? So you see here, this is the command that we had executed just now, and the event has come here. Let's see how it will reflect when you issue the take the golden ticket and then use it to issue a new ticket, right? So look at this suspected golden ticket usage, right? So from here, now it's like victim PC itself is generating the ticket, you see, is what missing that necessary authentication request, like AS request that is required, right? So that's how it will help you to detect the suspicious activities before the attacker can go ahead and do some more damages, right? And now this is more of a detection. If you want to do the let's say remediation for it, right? You can integrate this with your like Sentinel and then configure like playbook and said that, hey, whenever this activity comes, what should be done, right? So that's how you can further automate based on the detection that helps that you get from the Microsoft Defender for Identity. OK, so yeah, that's it pretty much from my side in the demo. And yeah, this is the OK, sorry, this is one of the event that will be reflected when you replicate the DC sync for the Kerberos account credential, like for this particular command that we had executed. This one. So you see, right, I'm running a DC sync, but I'm running a DC sync which is not our domain controller, right? This is just a Windows 10 machine. It's not a domain controller, but I'm still able to get the hash value for this account. So yeah, I mean, this is how Microsoft Defender for Identity can definitely help you to protect your organization. Yeah, that's it pretty much from my side in the demo. If you guys have any questions, feel free to go. And I would really like to thank our sponsors. OK, would enforcing labs on servers and end user devices prevent such attack? With enforcing labs, but here you see, right, labs is more on the Windows Server local admin privileges. That's not, and while this Defender for Identity is mainly looking towards the domain credentials, right? So I don't think that this would help. Definitely resetting the local administrator password definitely helps to protect the infra, but it's not going with the Defender for Identity as such. But yes, definitely, like CyberArk or Labs would definitely do help. Any other questions? One of the reason people not deploying in production as not all using are licensed. Could be. Any other questions, guys?
I have one question. So, which license is required for implementing Microsoft Defender for Identity?